I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A little crowded back here. Good morning, Moines County Board of Supervisors, Tuesday, October 29th, 2029. Are there any changes to the tentative agenda? I have one. We're going to make an amendment or a little change to the agenda for exigent circumstances. There are two women here to speak to us from the Iowa prison industry. They have to be on the agenda. They got in town last night. They have to be on the agenda today to qualify for a grant. So, and there's no voting. They're going to make a presentation to the board. So we are going to stick them in right after. I'll tell you what. After the minutes, we will stick you in before other business. Apologize for any inconvenience to the press, but this is we're going to do this. Okay. Meet with department heads and elected officials. Sarah Doty, our harried auditor, needs to get out of here again so she can go back to the election.
Good morning. Public test is today at 2 o'clock, so it will be very busy in here. We have had 3,237 absentee voters here in the office since the 16th, and we're at a total of 6,405 as of last night, including mail-ins and everything.
Those are mail-ins you've received?
Nope, that's what we've sent out. We haven't received all of them back yet, but that's the total with what we have mailed out and had in office. We have PEO training Wednesday, Thursday. We are open Saturday from 8 to 5. So if you can't make it in here to absentee vote or to your polls, then we are here Saturday. Just plugging away.
Okay. And the next Board of Supervisors meeting
Yes,
will
will be next Wednesday, due to the election being on Tuesday.
Taking over the boardroom.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Cheryl Must Bay Budget Directors, do you have any budget news?
Good morning. No, we're doing quite well.
Good. Colin Gerst, IT.
Good morning, just keep busy like always, but nothing new for the board.
Thank you, Colin.
Yep.
Kevin Glendenning, Des Moines County Sheriff.
Good morning. Pretty much the same for us. We're plenty busy. Not really major news to report on the law enforcement front. The jail is at 113 this morning. Just over 30 out of county. So numbers have been pretty much the same over the last several weeks. Continue to just try to work through that process and see those numbers come down, but we'll get there. On the mental health and disability side, I'm going to be on the advisory board for the new Region 7, which is the region we're going to be joining. So they put 2 law enforcement officers or 2 sheriff's representatives on that board. Since we're new to that region, we're kind of getting split off from our current region. It'll be helpful that we can kind of get to know those faces and names and as we work through that process. So I've got a meeting starting with that tomorrow, and we'll see how we move forward, because DHHS is hosting the meeting, kind of taking information and just trying to determine the best path forward and which services are going to be funded and in what way. So I'm interested to learn on that, and I'll report back on that next week.
Great news.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff. Melissa Schaefer, Des Moines County Attorney.
We're busy.
I see that. Thank you. Rodney Bleasner, Maintenance Director.
Good morning, just a lot going on. Trying to finish up some of the outside stuff today with a little bit of nice weather that we got left, but other than that, nothing new to report.
Thank you, Rodney. Jared Lassiter, Land Use.
Pretty much just keeping busy as usual. I don't have anything new to report.
Thank you, Jared. Chris Lee, Conservation Director.
We've got several events coming up. Today is our last fall color hike at Stars Cave. Going to be a breezy one. It's going to be more of a fall color rain hike, I guess. The leaves are just blowing around all over the place, which is kind of neat. And then starting next month, we got a couple different events. We have a 5K run on Veterans Day. It's a sunrise run that we're doing. We're going to split the proceeds from that with the Marine Corps League. 23rd. We are doing a turkey trot run. We're splitting the proceeds from that with Salvation Army. They put on a big Thanksgiving dinner, so doing that. Both those runs are on the Starscape Trails. And then November, I don't know what the date is, 13th, I want to say, is we have a hike a park at Weaponville Woods. So lots of opportunities to get out on trails and go see stuff. Field team is starting to shut down parks. We'll be shutting down winterizing the shower house at Big Hollow this week, shutting water off at Fourth Pumping Station and Wilter recreation areas here by the end of the week. We'll leave the water on at Big Hollow until we see a sustained freeze. We're still getting some decent numbers. Camping up there, it's frankly still pretty nice camping weather, so.
Thank you, Chris. Ken Heineman, Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa.
Good morning. We have May and Lori with us today, and they're going to share some information with you. They're from the East Central region, and I think since they're not on the agenda, they'll probably be during public input time, so I'm looking forward to hearing from them.
Sure we.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ken.
Yep.
Shannon Prado, Emergency Management Director.
And the only thing that I really have to add today is it's going to be incredibly windy today and to tomorrow. So please refrain from burning anything. The fire department will probably appreciate that. I know I've seen a few field fires and ditch fires the last few weeks. A few roads have had to be shut down. So please just be really careful with any fires. That's all I have to add today.
Thank you, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
Krista Poggemiller, Public Health Director.
Good morning. Our clinics have been very busy, so we're happy people have figured out where we're located at, so we've seen good traffic coming through there. We are finishing up the school audits for immunizations, and they're due at the end of the month, so we've got those just about wrapped up. I want to thank Rodney and his team for their continued help in helping us move those last little things out of the old public health building, so, and I think we've got that just about done.
Thank you, Krista. Ryan Carter, Secondary Roads.
Good morning. Plenty of stuff still going on. The bridge on 99 is now open. There's a little bit more work to be done, mostly just guardrail, one corner of guardrail. They're still waiting on a part for it. But seating's done and it's mostly wrapped up. So I do have a project tour on just in case you guys wanted to run up and take a look at that. You haven't had a chance to see it or drive across it. So if not, that's no big deal. It's not going anywhere for a long time. And the other bridge on Upper Flint is still closed and waiting for the grading contractor to get out of the way and the paving contractor to come in. So depending on weather, maybe we'll see some paving activity this week, and looks like it's got rain in, which has been a long while for an extended rain, but next week looks like quite a bit of rain, so might slow things down a little bit from what we were projecting, but we'll just see how things move along. Other than that, we are starting kind of a one-lane project on Seven Ponds Road, which, as you guys know, is a dead-end road. So if anybody call and ask, have them call out to our office. We'll have lights set up. It won't be closed. It'll just be one lane. We're repairing some shoulder areas that have slid away that we want to get fixed up and stabilized before we do the asphalt overlay that we're hoping to do next summer on that road. So they're starting that up today, starting doing removals, and other than that, there's plenty of things going on. We're still ditching down on Skunk River, and we had somebody request dust control because of all the dust last week, and we told them that this isn't the time of year to be doing dust control. So, but it's just bone dry. It's still, even with a little bit of rain we got there not too long ago. So an extended rain event I don't think would be a bad thing at the moment. So.
You know, the only complaints I've been getting on Upper Flint Road is gonna be open before golf season. I had a lot of people asking about that.
Yeah, we should beat that.
Yeah.
So, but no, other than that, I got an agenda item, that's it.
Thank you, Brian. I don't think I missed anybody. Correspondence. Do either of you gentlemen have any correspondence?
I have none.
I have none. We'll proceed to discussion and vote. We have payroll reimbursement claims in the amount of $353.85.
Motion to approve. Second.
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have an Iowa DOT federal aid agreement for STP SCO 29, paragraph 98-5E-29 for Des Moines County Highway 99. I
This
think the
is-
county engineer's gonna,
Yeah, so this is, the only time you're ever gonna see these documents is when we have federal aid dollars in a project. You just did two of them, one of them, I think, cause I don't think the other, but the two bridges we're bidding for next year, one of the two is on a route that has federal aid, a federal aid designation. This is for the Highway 99 asphalt job, same thing, it's got a federal aid designation. And so, this is a contract that's generated by the DOT. We run it through for approval, basically because it's got federal aid dollars, we're saying we'll do things to federal aid standards. That's which is the more or less the same way we do our business anyway. So, it's really just another piece of paper is what it is, but.
spend a little more money, take a little more time.
Yeah, so I need you guys to approve this, or I'd recommend approval. This is one of them that'd be better if you don't stamp, because of the federal side of it. So, but if you guys would approve it, I would appreciate it. I'll take the original and we'll upload it to the DOT and we'll be good to go. I think this is on the cusp of being the final step of this project, going to a January bid. So,
Move to approve STP-S CO 29-98-3E-29 for Des Moines County Highway 99.
I'll second that.
What was it you said, Jim?
Repeat that.
Cheryl?
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes, please.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
thank you. There's right around just a little over $1.6 million of federal aid funds in that project. They changed the number on me, so it's somewhere between 1.6 and 1.7. I blame Jared.
It's the regional competitive, well, the city is competitive, but we get the target of funds each year from DOT.
Okay, we have personnel actions, we have two for the correctional center. Peyton Krogmeyer, part-time to full-time, the previous rate was $17.69 an hour, the new rate is $48,614.34 a year. And we have a FEMA unpaid leave for Kenyatta Rook, correctional officer, 73.3 hours of FEMA leave.
Motion to approve both.
Second.
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Tom Broker.
Yes. And we have one for the county attorney, Cassandra Kilby, law clerk, unpaid leave of 2.75 hours.
Move approved.
Second.
Cheryl?
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Shane McCampbell.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have reports. We have the Dewey Buyer Trust Report for the third quarter, July 1st through September 30th of 2024. This report will be on file and available for public review in the auditor's office at your convenience. We have minutes for the regular meeting of October 22nd, 2024.
Motion to approve minutes.
Move, or second.
Cheryl?
Shane McCampbell.
Yep.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Tom Broker.
Yes. And we have a presentation from the Iowa Prison Industries with Tammy Nielsen.
Yes. Hello, so I am Tammy Nielsen. I'm here with, let's see, we're in front.
Okay, you can just stand up, you're fine, there's a microphone.
Okay, I'm here with Iowa Prison Industries to talk about a work training program that we're looking to get set up at Weingard here in Burlington. So today I'm joined with Bob Fairfax, which is the director of Iowa Prison Industries.
Ran into you twice. I got you.
I've got Marcy Stroud, she is the warden at Mount Pleasant Correctional Facility. And then representing Weingard here, we've got Carrie and Denise. And so, as you mentioned, we do not need a motion for approval. We're just here as a courtesy to let you know what's happening in your community and give you a chance to answer, give us a chance to answer any questions that you might have. So Iowa Prison Industries, we are operated under the Department of Corrections. Our mission is to provide work training and job skills to the incarcerated population of of Iowa, so that upon release, it helps individuals be more successful, it helps our communities be safer, and it helps lower the recidivism rate here in the state. And so Weingard is looking to use the program. Part of the program allows us to work with private companies who are struggling to find enough qualified skilled labor. And our program allows companies to pull from minimum security institutions to offset their labor shortages and use the incarcerated individuals in their workforce. So these individuals would be leaving the institution every day and going to Weingard, just working right alongside the other workers at the institution, at their facility, and then returning to the institution in the evening. The workers are paid prevailing wages that are provided to us from Iowa Workforce Development. And so they are paid the same wage that any other worker doing that same position would be paid at the facility. And there's no other program here in Des Moines County that's operating through Iowa Prison Industries off grounds like this. We do have another program in Mount Pleasant that's using the facility, the program. And so we're just, like I said, here kind of as a courtesy to let you know that they're looking to set this up at their facility, and that they would be using the incarcerated workers from Mount Pleasant to come to their facility every day to do work.
Okay.
I got a question. If you're saying they're getting paid, now, their paycheck, does that go back to the state or does that go to them?
Yeah, so we have federal regulations that we follow, and so they receive 20% of their wages that they from their gross wages, and then the rest of it gets split up between victims' compensation. It goes back to pay, offset their room and board, and then the remainder goes to their restitution fees, things like that. They can put money into a savings account, and so it helps them build a little bit of money, so that again, upon release, it helps them be more successful.
Great, thank you.
Do other members of the press have any questions you'd like to?
How many do you expect to
use
for
yeah,
this
I
program?
think right now we're starting to look for between 5 and 10 to get started.
And how many are already, you mentioned you've already got this set up with
Yeah, we've got
business
another
and-
program, off-grounds program that's using about 30 individuals.
What's the population of the Mount Pleasant facility?
We are right at about 1,062.
Really? I didn't realize that it was that big.
So I've had some correspondence with Tammy. And
Yeah.
just submitted some questions, and more so probably if, I was asking about just the level of offender that would be released, the numbers, and it might be more along like safety protocol and more confidential information. And I don't know if you would have the opportunity to maybe, just provide that information to us so we could be prepared and,
Yes.
law enforcement side.
What I would love to do is coordinate a meeting with you and our local sheriff, and maybe a representative from the current business that we're working with, to kind of explain some of those responses and concerns and.
Sure, sure.
So if you're open to that,
Yeah.
I think that would be most beneficial, and you can even go tour that business and see what you think.
Yeah, and it's not so much concern, I'm excited about the opportunity, I think Weingard can use the workforce and it's preparing offenders to move into, move out of incarceration. That said, just so for our awareness,
Yep.
just so
Yep.
we
Makes
know what's
sense.
going on and can assist as needed if that's ever needed, so.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you for coming down and speaking to us, I appreciate it.
Do you have, any statistics of the success rates of this program? How long is this
Yeah, I'll
program?
let Bob speak a little bit. I know our recidivism rates,
Well, it fluctuates, but we know that if they go through a program like this, they're probably 3 to 4 times more successful than they would be just a regular release on the street. The department's recidivism rate now, which is return to prison, for any of you who are wondering about that, is about 35.2%. So that means 3 out of 10 after their release will end up coming back to us. Nationwide, Iowa, we're a little better than nationwide. Nationwide's closer to about 50%. So we're proud of that here in Iowa, but we're always trying to shrink that number and get it to be smaller and smaller. And work programs like this is one of the best opportunities to do that. So success rates, I don't know if that answers your question or
no, that
not,
does.
but
Thank you.
we know that, in some of our programs, it's less than 10%, excuse me. So, like I said, we're pretty proud of it, and Tammy didn't mention it, but all this entire program doesn't cost the taxpayers a penny. We're 100% self-funding. We're not an appropriated division in Iowa state government, so it's a win-win for everybody, including the individuals that are gonna be back on the street. That's the biggest win right there. They go out, become successful, turn their lives around, and they become taxpayers instead of tax takers.
I would love to see you guys come back down the road a piece and kind of give us an update on how, how
Sure.
that's working out.
And I think the folks from Weingard here too would be very good to say about the employees and how they work for you and everything. Maybe that would be success. That's part of the success too as well. Did you guys want to add anything there?
Yeah, well, we currently take work to Mount Pleasant now, and they perform, and it has worked out amazing. But this work isn't as conducive to transport over there, so we're looking to bring workers here, and we're also working with CBIS to help with the transportation aspect of it.
Good enough. Sounds like a good program.
Hope so.
Thank you for coming and
Thank
explaining
you.
that to us and taking questions.
Yeah.
You have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care, all.
Thank you.
I won't run over you next time.
Yeah. I'll remember your name, Jim. Yes.
We both beat each other up all twice.
What, as long as other business, if the mental health, or the new, regions, do they still call them regions, or what do they call them now?
Districts.
Districts, so anyway, yeah, this might be a good time for the mental health district to, if you had a presentation or had some information for us.
Thank you. So good morning, my name is May Hinchin. I'm the CEO of the Mental Health and Disability Services of the East Central Region. So we have 9 counties in the East Central Region. Our counties are Benton, Bremer, Buchanan, Delaware, Dubuque, Iowa, Jones, Johnson, and Lynn. And I'll let Lori introduce herself.
And I'm Lori Elam, I'm the CEO of the Eastern Iowa MHDS region. And that is 5 counties, the far eastern point of Iowa, Cedar, Clinton, Scott, Jackson, and Muscatine County.
So as the sheriff said, there's been a realignment, right? And I'm sure you've seen the map, so I handed out the map again, but District Behavioral Health District number 7 is where Des Moines County ended up in, Des Moines and Louisa counties. So District number 7 is most of the East Central region, all of the Eastern Iowa region. And then it added in Blackhawk County and Des Moines and Louisa counties. So Lori and I had the intention right away in August, like, let's get out, right? Let's meet people and let you get to know us and for us to get to know you and what services are here in Des Moines County, what services are needed in Des Moines County, and just kind of talk about our vision. So you see in the second page that I gave you is a 1-page summary of the Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization request for proposals. There's a lot of words there. So the state released the request for proposals on September 1st. And we have 2, the MHDS regions, as you know, at the end of this fiscal year on June 30th of 2025 will cease to exist. So right now, Des Moines County is a member of the Mental Health Agency of Southeast Iowa. but that will cease to exist on June 30th. And so the new system is the Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organizations, or the ASOs, and they will start services on July 1st of 2025. So Mahassey as an agency will end, so will my region and Lori's region, we all end on June 30th. And then on July 1st, the ASOs will take over as far as administration and contracting, funding of behavioral health services. So the language is different because HHS, through House File 2673, that the governor signed in May, creates the behavioral health system, which combines mental health and addictive disorders. So now mental health and addictive disorders are together in behavioral health. And then there's another piece of it called disability services that we'll talk about a little bit later. But the big piece, right, is behavioral health services. And so the state will be designating something that they're calling the ASOs, the Administrative Services Organizations, on December 30th of this year. So state procurement process, the RFP was released on September 1st, and we had intended to be here much earlier, about 3 weeks ago. Lori had surgery, I had emergency appendectomy, so we had to cancel. I'm very sorry, we had to cancel on October. It was like, how was it that we both had surgery in the same week?
Excuses.
I know, right? My surgery was on Saturday, and I really thought about it on Tuesday, but my doctor really discouraged me from coming down. I live in Dubuque, so it's a 2.5-hour drive for me, so it was a ways. So anyway, we rescheduled today, but we had wanted to be here before our proposal was due. So in this state procurement process, the proposal was due to HHS. You see the timeline on the top of your paper on last Friday. What was the date?
The 18th.
18th, October 18th. That wasn't last Friday, it was a week ago already. Yeah, it's been a lot. So our proposal was due to HHS on October 18th. We were allowed 2 types of eligible entities to apply to be the Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization. An MHDS region that was currently designated as a region, or a nonprofit entity. So we submitted a proposal on October 18th from MHDS of the East Central region. We ended up being the lead agency, just our discussion between our 2 regions because of our size. Right now, the East Central region is 608,000 people, and the Eastern Iowa region is
A little over 300,000.
yeah. So just size-wise, we put in, it was a very collaborative and joint effort to work together here, and as well as including Blackhawk and Des Moines and Louisa counties, like our new partners. So we put in that proposal on October 18th, and HHS will notify us if we're invited to a bidders presentation on November 20th or 21st. And then they will designate the administrative services organizations on December 30th. So that's kind of the timeline. Then we'll have January 1st until June 30th to transition, right? So this will be the opportunity, if we're named as the ASO, the opportunity for us to spend a lot more time down here. I know the sheriff was invited, and I'm not sure if you were able to attend, a meeting with one of my staff who works a lot with law enforcement. So we're trying to understand like what great services. I understand you have a very strong CIT program down here in Des Moines County. So one of my staff came down and met with that group and said it was a great meeting. So it's just our opportunity here for us to just get to know what's here and to answer any questions, and really to talk to you about what are you looking for that administrative services organization. You're switching, right, from Mahassey to new people. And, you know, we want to make sure that we meet the needs of the people in Des Moines County who have behavioral health needs, so again, mental health and substance use, if we're named ASO, of course. Lori and I both, if you look at our regions, our current regions, we have a lot of experience with both urban and rural counties and making that balance. And in the East Central region, our strategic plan, we talk about being a cohesive region and making sure that we're pushing services out to all counties, and so that we have the equitable access across our area. And I know in the Eastern Iowa region, that's their priority too. So now we're trying to envision like what will this look like, and how will we ensure staffing, ensure appropriate services, ensure access to services in Des Moines County. So we're meeting with Ken after this, we're meeting with the hospital staff also today. So we're just trying to build these relationships. Am I leaving now? Okay. Also, on October 18th, HHS released the second RFP. So the second RFP is for what they're calling the Disability Access Point. So right now, MHDS regions, right, mental health and disability services, that is being, in some ways, not split, I don't wanna say that's not the right word, divested within HHS. So HHS now has a division of behavioral health and a division of aging and disability services. So the administration statewide of disability services, so here we're talking about people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and people with brain injury, that the governance of that work will be under HHS division of aging and disability services. So HHS released an RFP for the Disability Access Point on October 18th as well. Same day we put in our proposal for the one, they released the RFP for the second one. Disability Access Point has some similar responsibilities with the addition of service coordination. So we have the opportunity to do service coordination to make sure that we have social workers working with people to make sure that they are referred to services and they receive the funding that they need. So we, last Friday, submitted our letter of intent to put in a proposal to be the Disability Access Point also. So we are hoping that our combined partnership here, these 14 counties in District Number 7 will be able to administer the behavioral health services as well as the disability services. A whole lot more to that, so please.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've been here a while. I got here 3 weeks ago.
Okay,
So
so you remember CPCs?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, ours was
Yep.
right behind you,
Yeah,
yes. and
I was a
yeah.
CPC a long time ago in Northwest Iowa, so I've transitioned and Lori was as well, so you
Medicaid
remember all
dollars
this stuff.
flowed through the county. It
Yeah.
was, yes, it was, anyway, so what, and I understand that they're combining substance abuse and behavioral service. And beyond that, what's a client, a Des Moines County client, what will he notice or she notice that, what's changed?
Yeah, that is such a great question, and thank you for asking that. My hope, our vision is that clients won't notice a thing, right? So we have this period of time from January to June to transition, to make sure, if we're named the ASO, that we stand up our contracting authority. And so that I wanna make sure, across all of District 7, that people still get services, right? When the MHDS regions end on June 30th and the ASO starts on July 1st, and that providers still get paid. So what will a Des Moines County resident notice, a person who needs services? I hope nothing, because it's really the administration of the system. I hope that if we're allowed, because we'll see what's in a contract from HHS, we don't really know yet. We have a lot better idea than we did 3 months ago of the scope of the work of the ASOs and the Disability Access Point, because we have seen the RFPs, but we still don't quite know everything that we're going to be allowed to do. But I do hope that we'll continue to develop more services and create greater access through outreach, right? Billboards, advertisements, and so that people know that it's okay to need help and that help is available.
And I know at one time, of course, they had different rules for substance abuse, and you've got behavioral health over here. If you were in the middle, they either called it dual diagnosis, or somebody said, no, it's a co-occurring condition.
Yes.
It's not a dual diagnosis or whatever. They decided about that, I don't know. But, so I would assume that would help if it's all come from the same place, that you're not gonna be denied service on one hand because you have a condition that should be addressed on the other hand.
Yes, exactly.
But,
In the East Central region for the last 2 years, 2.5 years, well, 2 years officially for our legislative priorities, that's been one of our top 2 legislative priorities, is to commingle the funding and the policy for mental health and addictive disorders, because we all know, right, that people who experience one often experience the other. and the prevalence of people who have co-occurring disorders is so high. So we've been pretty active at the Capitol the last couple of years on this point. Every time I see Director Garcia, and I raise my hand in a meeting, she says, May, I know what you're gonna say. Like, we need to have co-occurring, we need to blend that policy and the funding. So, and when the governor had her condition of the state address on January 9th and she made that announcement, I was really happy about it because we're past time in Iowa to combine that funding so people don't get denied here, but you have to go over here. And I hope that the vision of HHS and the vision that the ASOs will be able to put into practice is it's not just we'll pay for addictive disorder services and we'll pay for mental health services, but we can truly design things that are integrated. So a person can go to one place and get treatment for whichever issue they have or both.
Do we, and I guess I would assume, I don't know, but the people that are providing services now, we get a crisis services from Elevate. We have an Hirschhome, that previously the region, contracted with. That you would envision the same people or groups providing services in similar areas or in the same areas?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Here's our philosophy. We want what you want. So we're not gonna come in and be like, oh, well, we're getting rid of Elevate or we're getting rid of this. If it works and that's what the people in Des Moines County want, then we want it too. I mean, we're more about partnerships than coming in and saying,
Besides how it works,
Yeah.
whether it's working or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that will be our job, right? And HHS, in our proposal, we had to explain to HHS how we will do district level assessment. What are the needs and what's currently working, what's not working, and then district level planning. Okay, then what's next? So we had to commit to that in our proposal.
Does the funding and I guess the mechanism for determining how the individual areas of the region are funded, or district, I'm sorry, does it appear to be on track to be able to continue those services?
We have no idea. There's a whole lot of unknown yet. So HHS released a transition plan on July 1st. And one of the activities in that transition plan, they were releasing the RFPs, and then it sort of looks just the way they have it structured, even though they left it open for any time between now and June 30th. But it kind of looked like from January 1st to June 30th, they will determine the funding distribution and allocation. So we don't know how much the ASOs will be given for services. And right now, we all get funding, the regions get funding based on the number of people who live in the region. And HHS has been pretty clear that it won't be solely per capita based, that there will be a formula. Per capita might be part of that formula, but there will be other factors. You see on the map I gave you, District 7 is the largest district in the state. It's over 1 million people. So if per capita is part of the funding formula, that will be advantageous for us. So the disability access point, we do have an estimation, and it's not, we don't have a contract yet, but if we're named the disability access point, we do know that they're estimating $3.4 million in the district for disability services. Not sure why we got a somewhat of an idea for the disability access point versus the Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, but it's there, so we know that. Right now, the East Central region has a budget of $29 million. The Eastern Iowa region has a budget of
11.9.
I'm sorry, I don't know what Mahassey's is, you guys probably do, but.
Is it 8 million or? I'm not
That
sure.
rings a bell, I'm not sure.
Tammy runs that budget, but I'm sure.
Some of those regions will have their, I'm not sure what Polk County has in common with Lucas, Wayne, or Clark counties.
I bet they're figuring that out.
They'll get them.
The services that I would say that are important to us in law enforcement locally, the crisis intervention, that's been a big staple, especially since law enforcement becomes so much more heavily involved in dealing dealing with people in crisis and just trying to find them the services that they need. I would also say that it would be nice to have consistency in those services. It feels like it's a moving target at times, and I know as the state's tried to structure how mental health and disability services are, that it feels like those services move, and it's hard to really understand in our world how to get them in touch with those services. So that there's some difficulty there. I would say like our justice involved services at the correctional center are very important. Just preparing those folks for transition into the community. That's been very helpful. We get 20 hours a week at our correctional center, and that's provided through the region through Melissa Mace. The other thing would be mobile crisis. That's been a big help for us. I can't tell you the numbers, but I would say that those numbers were extremely high when we first kicked that off, and because of maintaining those services and keeping those folks involved, that's been helpful in reducing those numbers, so that those calls for service are lower. I'd say especially to Burlington and West Burlington, we don't deal with it as much out in the rural area, but it's helped a lot. So keeping that service would be very helpful as well.
Do you have co-responders here, a co-responder?
So no, like law enforcement paired with.
More like a social worker.
Sure. We don't, not in Des Moines County. We respond and we work together and we coordinate that together as a group, but no, we aren't funded through the region here. I think the closest county that does that is Marion for us.
Okay,
But-
so in both of our regions, we fund a co-responder model where we have a bachelor's level social worker who is employed by a behavioral health organization, but co-supervised by law enforcement. So, and they're integrated into the law enforcement team and go with on mental health crisis calls and then do follow-up afterwards. And we've just seen a lot of success with it as far as reducing arrest.
Sure.
Right? And so, and that's something that was in the state RFP that will be an allowable service. And so something that Lori and I both we really believe in and we've seen the benefit of. So we'd like to push that out, more of those services. And we have a lot of great ideas for the justice involved, and HHS put into the RFP, I like to say they copied the East Central region because we identified these three populations, or these sectors of our society: healthcare, law enforcement, and education. And in our strategic plan that we've had for 4.5 years, we identified those three partners that if we do what we do well, then they can do what they do well, right? If we help people get treatment, then law enforcement responds to less crises. Healthcare can really focus on people's primary health needs. Education, teachers can teach if children's behavioral health is addressed. And so HHS put that language into the RFP that will be strong, that are expected to be strong partnerships with the ASOs. And we have a lot of good ideas for that.
Is your CIT training done through Solution Point Plus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've used different models for that training, but that's the most current. That's what's scheduled for this year also.
Okay, great.
We have contracts
Yep.
with them.
Yep.
Are they looking at a different ASO for each one of those regions?
Each district will have an ASO, but an ASO may have more than one district.
Okay.
So, we'll talk about our competition, because it's public information. So Elevate Housing did submit a proposal for all 7 districts in the state, and so did the Iowa Primary Care Association. So that is the network of federally qualified health centers. They submitted a proposal for all 7 districts as well. There was no other competition for District 7. There was no local other than, just us, and then the 2 organizations that submitted statewide. It's possible, right, that HHS will say, Iowa Primary Care Association, you're the ASO for all 7.
By federally, do you mean the CHCs?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's totally fine. So, we'll see. December 30th. What else?
Thank,
I think that's it.
Yeah.
do you guys have any?
I'm satisfied.
Thank you very much for coming down, and
Yeah.
wish you luck. I'll be anxious to see how this turns out.
Yeah, well, we'll be in touch as we're planning what's the communication gonna look like on December 30th,
Was,
so.
as long as whoever the ASO is coordinates with law enforcement, it'll make everything a lot better.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other business?
I have none.
I have some. The county engineer and I, you might remember a few weeks ago, we were talking about that wind turbine disaster they had in Mechanicsville. So we drove to Mechanicsville, met with the woman and her family that owned that. That's what we did. They had two turbines there. One of them was steel turbine and metal, both of them about 500 feet high. They're sending us some more information. We haven't gotten it yet. But about 500 feet tall. One was metal, and the other is a concrete base with the steel on top of it. And so they both caught on fire. And there were chunks that were thrown 1,500 feet.
Large chunks, the largest
Large-
chunks.
Those are the bigger chunks, yes. And there's fiberglass scattered up to 1.5 miles. One of those windmills is still in the air. And it's got one blade on it just hanging there, and you can see fiberglass is still blowing. The other one was taken down, and the crane they took it down with is still there. And I mean, it's a huge piece of equipment. I have some familiarity with crane, and it'll sit there till I have another job for it. I think, didn't Sally say that it took 80 or 100 truckloads just to bring in that crane with the counterweight boom and everything? So we're talking, it would cost $100,000, $150,000, who knows, to load it, take it away, or bring it there. So anyway, and so it's sitting there. And it would have been heavy. It would have weighed 600 or 700 tons when it was driving around. So, and the other one's concrete, and to take the top off would cost $700,000 or $800,000, just the metal part of a crane like that. And then it'd cost about $1.25 million to cut the concrete up and bring it down. The people that own it just want to blow it up and knock it down anyway, which brings up some other interesting problems. The one in the air still has, what they say, about 250 gallons of
That's
oil.
their best guess. It holds 2 to 250, and they haven't gone in it since the fire, so nobody knows what fluids are still in there.
Yeah, anyway, well, so if 250 gallons or 200 gallons or whatever comes down, you've created an environmental problem. What turns out, the law says that the environmental problem does not belong to the lessee, it belongs to the landowner. So apparently they've been told that this is their deal. And
That came from the DNR.
yes, and so, and of course, they're worried about what might happen if you just blow it up and let it tip over. And apparently, these leases that they put these things on are readily traded. The company that owns it now is from Spain. And I get the impression that they're not too concerned about the ramifications of all this. So these people, this is their land. If you have to take it down, they'd like to see it cut and taken down, carefully laid on the ground, and just. And I'm sure the neighbors are unhappy because there's strands and pieces of fiberglass and whatnot scattered all over. if, we all commented, of course, around it now, there's mature corn, that they're picking corn. If that fire would have started now, who knows where it would have gone. Anyway, in the, you feel really bad for the people, because I'm sure the people that sold that to them, you know, were personable and said, this is the way it is, and we're gonna take care of you. Well, I assume if $1 billion company writes a lease, it says what that company wants it to say. And they have trouble getting lawyers. And anyway, I feel badly for them, and they're great people. You know, they said anybody that wants to come up, they'll let them go out there and look. You know, essentially they told us, they said anybody else that's thinking about signing a lease from one of these wants to come up and look. They've had a number of supervisors, county supervisors, to look for different counties. So I don't know. Just first glance, and we've got that ordinance that we passed for wind and solar power. I would like to relook at the setbacks we have. If they've got, I think ours is 1,800 feet. If they've got chunks that are landing 1,500 feet, you can't have something like that if you would have a yard and children that needs to be talked about, what we have for setbacks. Somehow whether, you know, when I said I'd sent that, what we have to the attorney that supposedly specializes in this, ask about the environmental hazard, because about the time somebody would said that the fiberglass is an environment, I don't know. That was something that you would want to be addressed, is that they're gonna do that. I would think you would need some sort of a timeline. This has been going on for a year and a half. Nobody's in a hurry. And the fiberglass is still blowing.
You can see fiberglass blowing from the fan blades that are, the fan blades still up top.
Yeah.
And this was a year and a half ago.
The first fire, I believe, was a year and a half. Yep. And
There were multiple fires.
One of them caught on fire twice, and one of them caught on fire once. They were hit by lightning. I don't know.
So on the cleaned up site, there's, if you look across the ground, cause it's bare dirt ground, cause it's been a long time, and they've sent a crew once that didn't do much of anything. It looks like, yes, it looks like spider webs, but it's fiberglass coming out of the soil. I mean, so
It's too bad.
it's a bad deal. Well, the other site, there's still 2 partially burned fan blades laying on the ground because they've not showed up, period, to do anything.
Yeah. And they chiseled part of that, so they know part of that debris and stuff like that. Is it chiseled, is it grained and everything?
They had worked the ground before the fire.
Yeah.
So then the company said, well, we're gonna send somebody right away. Well, by the time anybody sent anything, you had weather, you had wind, you had everything else. Well, then one of the companies came in with some sort of a rake and just basically stirred the ground up. So the fiberglass is at least 12 inches deep into the soil. You could stand there and pull it out. I mean, some of it looks like little clumps of hair. Then you can find some that are burned, and there's bigger chunks of burned fiberglass, and
You wouldn't want to just grab any of it with your bare hand, you get pieces of it.
Oh, I did. You know, you had fire. It was just like fiberglass insulation to some extent.
Yeah. So yeah, I might reach out to that attorney again and tell him to look and, you know, mention the environmental laws. If who knows what that would cost. You know, it's more than a landowner's gonna be able to afford. It's
The only true I was talking to was Sally, right? She was the one that
Sally was
first
the
contact.
her mother and father.
When we walked back to get the vehicles, I was talking to her, cause the only way I could see to truly clean that soil area, this doesn't include the 400 acres of corn that had stuff hanging in it.
Yeah.
Was to remove 6 to 12 inches of soil, take it to a landfill, and then remediate that, bring back in 6 to 12 inches of topsoil to, and they had done that somewhere in the United States. She had done a bunch of research and she said that that was one of the things they did. In that situation, it's because the ground had been worked prior to the fire, so that was deeper into the soil. But, yeah, they were, and that doesn't cover the costs they're gonna have with how they handle the grain, cause they can't just haul the grain straight to a market like you would normally.
Which
They're dealing with the combine situation.
sounded like the owner thought maybe they could do that. I don't suppose they were too concerned about whether it got into the food supply or whatever. They said just, so that I think they were talking about bagging it.
That's what they were in there.
You know, just taking it somewhere in the bags, but, and they aren't supposed to do anything on it, cause right now it's under the control of the leasee, and they don't want anything done on it till hell freezes over or whatnot.
They're dragging their feet, obviously.
But you would want, I would think you would want some sort of deadlines, you know, if they don't clean up something so fast, you know, that bond would kick.
It was a good, I'm not gonna say it's a worst case scenario, cause I'm sure there's worse, but it's up in that worst case scenario category. I thought it was I didn't know what we would see, but I thought it was a good chance to get their input and see how they're getting dragged around and how hard it's been to get any action. And I mean, they have been met there, but people that show up don't have any say, and yeah.
So
The company doesn't really want to spend money.
anyway, so I sort of mentioned that I'm gonna reach out and mention a couple of those things to that attorney, you know, that we got so many free hours from ICAP to address like the environmental and some of that stuff and see whether that's, but I think we need to, in the foreseeable future, open that back up and discuss some of those setbacks. You can't have something where chunks are landing anywhere near somebody would have a residential property or, and then if you've got lights, I don't know, it's ugly.
Well, them things are turning upward to 100 miles an hour.
Well, I think you're going closer to 200 out at the tip.
Yeah.
That's why they kill so many birds. The birds, they look like they're going slow and.
Are there standing crops with the debris in it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So are they gonna try to harvest them, or?
Yeah, they've been working out a deal with a local equipment provider because they don't wanna ruin a combine to do it, and so, yes, they are gonna end up harvesting it, but they keep getting pushed back. They're gonna pick it, because that's the only way to get access to the soil side of it to start, but there's not just fiberglass, I mean, there's chunks, they're almost like seashells where they're burned little pieces of plastic and fiberglass. I mean, just to give you an example of the size, I mean, it's all, there's
Insulation is
everywhere. It's a deal, so.
So did they express if the wind turbines insurance is gonna cover the loss of crops, or if their crop insurance is gonna cover it?
The wind turbine insurance, every time they come around, the closest they've gotten, they didn't discuss that specifically. They just discussed the main focus of a lot of their conversation was cleanup and remediation period, and it's been, they even offered to do it with a quote they gave them, but then they wanted some sort of clean hands, we're done kind of thing. And
Cleanup remediation,
yeah,
except
so they wouldn't sign that. They got a quote to do a full-blown cleanup from a company. It was 1.2 million, and they refused to pay that, so they brought some people in with vacuum cleaners for $30,000, and they sat in their trucks and didn't do anything, and you couldn't do anything with a vacuum. I don't even know what that was about, but it was sadly probably expected, but kind of eye-opening.
I think they were gonna try to, when they harvest it, they're just gonna try to put it in bags.
Yeah, they were talking about handling it a lot like you do.
When you've seen it with hay, when they blow hay or something into those great big long white bags, then they would have it all bagged up so that.
To wherever they can specialty tape it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to feed that cattle or anything with that fiberglass.
No, we never really talked about the market that it would be available to, but yeah, it's a deal.
You wonder if you could ethanol it or?
That's what, I'm assuming they're thinking of something along those lines, but we didn't really, I'm sure they had something on the backside that we never really discussed it.
You're gonna have to change the bottle on the liquor bottles and the labels on them. Binding
Fiber.
elements in this bottle.
I don't know, it's and I'm sure there were plenty of crops, depending on the way the wind was blowing around there, that had fiberglass in them also, but that would have been a lot of fine strands and, you
Yeah.
know, clearly, they didn't say anything about any neighbors having problems, but there are other reports of places, like there was it New York, they mentioned there was a turbine fire out there, and for one of those places, and there was a neighbor who didn't have the crop ground where the windmill was on, but he only raised hay for a dairy. That was his entire business, was servicing local dairies with basically feed. And it contaminated his entire crop, and he was left to either sign the settlement with the
With a
insurance
non-dis-
company.
With a non-disclosure.
With a
Sort of
non-disclosure.
gag order, if you take,
Or go
we'll
broke.
give you so much money, but sign this.
So they
Don't ever talk about
spoke to
this.
him once, and by the time they called him back, he couldn't speak anymore, cause he had to sign because he was gonna go broke if he didn't take whatever they offered, so. It was,
And also apparently you might, supposedly the developer, whatever, said here, they said, you know, we'll get you a lawyer to go over the lease for you.
and they
Well, then
paid
when
the
they go
lawyer
back to that
directly.
lawyer, that company had hired that lawyer, so there's conflict of interest, so they can't,
Well, not really, it doesn't matter who pays for the lawyer's allegiance is to the client.
well,
Regardless
that's,
of who
they,
pays.
they're having a great deal of trouble, they can't find one in Iowa.
Sounds to me like it's a nice niche industry for someone to get into.
And they acknowledge and
Like,
signed the
you're gonna
agreement.
Go back to the,
And if there's a lawyer that finds out there's money to be made in that niche industry, they will.
Oh, yeah, well, they spoke to somebody that does this, that apparently he used to work for in the wind industry, and so he just works in Texas, and, you know, while they talked to him on the phone, he said, well, I'm not licensed in Iowa, but he told them all sorts of things about how this works, and, wished him luck. So, anyway, I guess, long story short, I think we need to, if you guys don't have any, problems, I'm gonna send those requests on that extra things we'd like that attorney in Moines to look at, and, then we can sort of make a plan that we're gonna open that ordinance up again and discuss that in light of, sure.
I will note that we are, regional planning, we're working with Lee County Board of Supervisors right now on wind and solar ordinances as well, and that, this has the issue of emergency response has come up as part of that discussion, so we are looking at incorporating some additional language beyond what was in our initial ordinance here, so there could be some opportunities for utilizing some of that same language. We can see what the attorney came up with too, but.
And they said when they had the fire, at least one time, you know, the fire department shows up, but the wind tower's 500 feet tall.
Yeah.
So
So they
they
set to let it burn.
Yeah, they just, about all they can do is watch it, and if something would fall on the ground, it would so far, but you don't wanna be too close to it.
And part of that also is the preparation, having that so that local emergency response personnel are trained in advance of an instance like this, so there's the scenarios you can run through before.
Typically, the road system is a little exotic to try to get something back there.
I honestly think they mentioned that if the fire marshal's already said if there was another fire, that he was gonna do a mandatory evacuation in a 4-mile radius. I think they said that to us. There was something about a mandatory evacuation.
There were 3 people there, and they all had a story to tell.
It was
They were all
hard to
talking
follow
us
all
at the
3.
same time,
Yeah.
so
It
but,
was.
yeah, I remember him saying something that I didn't catch the mandatory evacuation. Anyway.
well, think you should send that lawyer and have, send our whole orders to him.
Yeah,
And we should have another work session on it.
I'm gonna do that, we'll see what he can come up with. Any other business? Future agenda items? Committee reports?
I have none.
I had a regional planning, executive board meeting. Jared give a, update on the new scoring process for the FTP. That's about it, that's all I had.
Thank you. Public input. If anybody from the public would like to comment, you can email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com, or you can call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We will give you a couple minutes to initiate that email or phone call. In the meantime, does anybody in attendance have any questions or comments? And before I forget, next week we will be meeting on Wednesday, so if you show up here, you're liable to get your butt kicked by one of the auditor and staff if you get in the way of the election. That'd be fair, Cheryl.
That's fair. We're feeling it by then, that's for sure.
So the corn that's there was planted before the fire?
Oh, there were multiple fires, and one of the fires happened after harvest, kind of, sort of, because the ground, because there were 2 windmills, and there were multiple fires at each windmill, I think. So some of the corn was green and short during one of the fires, at the one that's still standing. Beyond that, the time frame's a little sketchy because they were all saying the same, different things at
So you
different
don't know if
times.
they've planted since,
I don't believe,
I don't know anything about farming, but I can't imagine that corn that's been in the ground for a year and a half is gonna.
no, this is,
Mature
so the
corn.
area around the one they've taken down
Uh-huh.
is still bare. I mean, probably 10 acres or something like that. It's kind of a
Right.
weird shaped area. That's, I believe, was the first fire. I think that was,
I'm sure it was, because that one, I don't know whether that one caught on twice or this one, but they took that down. It's been down for some time, because part of it's on the ground, and the crane that they took it down, like I said, is still sitting there. It's a
but they didn't
big,
plan
big
it
crane.
because that's the area they were hoping to get the soil cleaned up from the fiberglass.
Yes.
So yes, but then the other one had a fire, and that was after planting season, but before the corn was very tall. So some of it was in that stage.
So does the current county ordinance address anything that requires, a landowner that may want to enter into one of these leases? Are there any requirements that are addressed in the current ordinance of that landowner, like hold so much insurance?
No, it is our intention when this was written, that the insurance, that the developer would insure the landowner, the developer, and the county, that there would be they would
Right.
they would do all the decommissioning, they would be responsible for liability insurance, cover everyone, and cleaning it up.
Okay.
And I hadn't really thought about it, but after looking up there, I can see where cleaning up has a lot of different meanings.
Sure it would be.
mean using.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't remember exactly how it's phrased, and part of that's the reason we sent it to the attorney that was supposed to be good with wind ordinances, so he was looking at it, and I expressly asked him, and I talked to him for a while, I said, this is our intention, we just wanna make sure that that bond, and those requirements will function as intended. So, and he might pick up on some of that, but I'm gonna touch base with him, and maybe he knows like the environmental stuff, and just talk to him about this. I'm not very confident in anything after I was up there with the problem they've had with this. They aren't getting any cooperation at all, and I'm sure everybody would say, well, that's that company, we're different.
Right.
I just want to address the regulatory aspect of this, because I don't know for sure how exactly this all happened at the local level in Cedar County, but I did see that they have an ordinance that was adopted in 2019, and from that wind turbine database they have, it's a national map of all the wind farms and individual wind turbines around the country. You can look up when individual turbines were installed, what their energy capacity, height, all that, and I believe those two in Cedar County, it's not actually a full wind farm.
It's
just those two. I believe those were installed in the early 2010s. So from what I gather here, I'm not sure if there would even be any regulatory authority over something that had been installed before that. So I'm curious as to what's.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I don't know. The one thing is I thought, do you guys remember, maybe it's been 20 years ago, the Apollo School, people were buying it, and they'd talk about it sold for $900,000, and then eventually, I think most people just assumed that there were tax credits and those sort of things involved. That's why they build those things. Is the government gives you a crap pile of tax credits and other subsidies. So those tax credits, depending on how those are structured, or the company is structured, what those would be worth to you. So I assume that, and I've heard this when we were at ISAC the last time, the Iowa State Association of Counties, they had a supervisor roundtable talking about this, and they said some of the China was buying some of those leases in some of those counties, and there was some concern about that. So I wouldn't be surprised that those probably do get traded around a little bit, depending on the structure of those tax credits and the structure of the companies buying and selling.
He said China was buying up a bunch is what I thought he said.
Well, I just heard him say that China's buying leases.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know,
So,
I thought our ordinance was gonna be pretty tight line when, what was the guy's name, Mark, that come in here?
Mike Carberry?
Mike,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Mike, he said, he told us, he said, you know, with the kind of ordinance you guys got, he said, nobody's gonna wanna put a wind farm up in.
That's his job to say that.
Yeah.
But they're still trying.
So,
They're still
you know,
trying.
and I thought we
Yeah.
had a pretty
Yeah.
tight plan, you know,
You have a
because
landowner that may want that.
Well, and that's
You
the
know,
deal.
they want that, revenue.
You have to, well, and people have property rights.
Yep.
And that's very important. But you can't, but the people that live adjacent, they have property rights too. You know, and so that's, you try to be, said, we aren't gonna let that developer, you know, that's our tax base, break the landowner, break the community. You know, they're gonna have to clean up something they put there. And, we're gonna have to be sure it's gonna have to be, inflation adjusted and, everlasting. I mean, it's just never goes away if they have to renew that bond every 6 months or 3 months before that first bond is up every 3 years. I suppose you can never be too suspicious. But, so there's after talking to these people, you can see where you'd wanna make sure that it covered this or that. I would hate to see a tragedy like that happen in Des Moines, or anywhere, but Des Moines County's where we are.
We're still gonna protect Moines County.
Yep, so yeah, so there's property rights, it's like splitting the baby. You know, you have to protect everybody's property rights, and it's, therein lies the rub.
I just got your alert, Caitlin.
It wasn't me, but I do wanna say that a red flag warning was just issued, which means that there will be a countywide burn ban. So, no burning.
Don't be clearing any land, Chris.
Yeah.
Please,
Don't worry
Chris.
about that.
Hey Chris, for the turkey trot that's coming up, have you ever seen a turkey with its head cut off?
I feel like one of those days.
With any more public input? With an aye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
So, we're gonna try to get together and do a drill.
I did.
You just had a chance to talk to them.
So you see how
I have new.